How's it going today, guys? In this video, I'm going to be talking about your flashlight mounting options for the Beretta 1301 Tactical. I'll also be talking about this flashlight a little bit and some of the other options I chose to optimize the use of the flashlight. If you guys want to see more videos like this, please like, subscribe, and share to help support the channel. I would really appreciate it. If you have any comments, feel free to comment down below. First, I'll talk about what I have, and then I'll get into the flashlight mounting options. So I chose the Modlite PLH V2. This is my favorite shotgun light and close range light. If you see my Benelli M4 video, you know that I mounted that on there, and I talked about that a little. I will be making an in-depth review about this flashlight in a different video, so if you want to see something more on that, stay tuned for that video. This is personally my favorite. It's dual fuel, great, durable, and reliable flashlight. I also have the Arisaka inline scout mount, so I can mount the Modlite to this mount, and then I'll mount it to the mlok. We have a Surefire UE tail cap, and then I have a Surefire ST07 tape switch. Now, for all this, it costs about $500, so it does get expensive. The Modlite full kit that comes with the tail cap and this battery, that's $309. We have the Arisaka inline scout mount for $45 with the hardware. We have the Surefire UE tail cap in tan for $65. That's a little cheaper if you get it in black. And then we have the Surefire ST07 tail switch for $56. That comes with these little adhesive pads and the alcohol prep pad. So for everything there, it's about $500, but unfortunately, this is how we have to do because of the barrel length and because of the handguard. Now, there's not a lot of mounting options for your flashlight, obviously. I'm going to be mounting it here because this seems most durable and it's also closer to my hand. You can mount it up here. You could get a little mlok Picatinny mount or something like that, mount that onto there, and then I don't really like this. It doesn't seem as durable, so I'm not going to be mounting it there. But if you wanted to mount some type of smaller light, you can do that. I don't really think that's what that was made for, but you can if you want. This is a lot more beefed up and seems like a much durable option. It is on both sides or on the bottom. Now, because of my sling mounting in right here, I'm going to mount it to the other side, and because it's going to be resting on my body, I want to try to keep this side as flat as possible. Because of this handguard anyways, because the mlok is so far out, it kind of forces you to use a tape switch like this, because when I'm reaching all the way out to get a comfortable position, my hand only comes about somewhere in here, and even if I had it mounted back all the way, just because of the mounts that are available, it doesn't really give me a good hand position to be able to click this on while shooting or while trying to click a momentary on. If you have it mounted out here with no tape switch, pretty much what you would have to do is you would have to click it on, bring your hand back into your normal firing position, and then you would have to just keep your light constantly on all the time, and then that's kind of giving away your position. I prefer to use flashlights in the momentary if I can. It kind of gives you more of an element of surprise rather than just keeping it on all the time. So that is one of the things that did annoy me about this handguard. They didn't make the mlok sections back as far as I would like them, and I think that's to just slim down on the handguard and weight, which I understand in an aspect, but it does force you to use some of this stuff. Now, with something like this Briley 3-gun mlok handguard that I have on my Benelli M4, I really like this a lot. It does make the firearm a little bit more beefy, which I don't really mind. This is a very light handguard, which does cause a little bit of flexing right there, which is fine, but it allows me to get all types of stuff on here. Little rail covers, allows me to use different type of tail switches like this Unity mlok mount, which just opens the door for a lot more mounts that are able to be used. And then you can put, you know, shot savers on there, and I can mount my sling back here so it's not really getting in the way of my light or anything else. Now, why I say this is really the only option is because, like I said, not going to be able to mount a tail switch up here, because it's just so far away that when I'm naturally grabbing the gun in the natural spot, it's more about right here, and I'm having to reach every time I want to activate that. So this is really the only reliable or decent type of tail switch that I'm going to be able to tape on right there, and then I can just tap that when I need it. So that's the reason I chose this. Even if my light was out right here, for example, let's say that's on there. Even if my light's out right here, when I grab it, I'm still having to reach every time I want to activate my light, which causes inconsistencies. It causes me to have to adjust my grip on the gun and lose a little bit of the grip. And then if I'm having to activate and shoot at the same time, that's just causing problems there. And then my thumb could come off, and then I have no more light type of thing. So it just causes a lot of problems. So like I said, this handguard, it is nice that it added the mlok to be able to mount, but it's forcing you to use a tape switch, and there's not really a lot of good or reliable stuff out there. Of course, I'm going to go with Surefire. It has to be good and reliable. If it's not reliable and durable, I'm not going to use it. It's UE Surefire tail switch. This is their tan version, which is kind of weird. It's like a dark green almost. It's supposed to be tan, but it's going to allow me to plug that in right there. So this is all you need. On my Beretta, I had the 2-button, the S700 or something like that. It had the manual button, and then where you can insert a tail switch. So I just wanted to save a little bit money and go more simple. If you have a reliable tail switch like this, like the Surefire, you don't really have to worry about having an extra button on the end if your tail switch fails. So it does replace the button on the end. Now, in regards to this Arisaka inline mount, what it's going to do when I place that there or wherever. So for example, it's just going to allow me to get my light closer out to the end of the barrel. When I mount it on the right side, there'll be less shadow on the left side of the gun or on the left to me. Now, they recommend that you don't have any overhang, but regardless, I'm going to have some overhang. So even if I go there, it is what it is. I haven't had a mount break on me yet, but they do recommend it that you actually have it, both of these, that it's flat on the handguard. Great mounts. I use the Arisaka mounts for pretty much just about everything, so you're not going to go wrong with the Arisaka mount. So Mod Light 18650, so this is dual fuel and it takes both. If you did want to save a little bit of weight on the flashlight or on the gun, you can get the 18350 model, so it'll only be like that long, or maybe about right here. It'll save you a little bit of weight. It still has the same performance, it just doesn't have the same battery life. So I don't really think you need a ton of battery life on a home defense shotgun. I just prefer the bigger ones for the bigger battery life, but if you did want to save a little bit of weight, these shotguns are pretty long and heavy anyways, so you could go with the 18350. Before I get into the installation process, I'm going to be going over as many other mounting options as possible. If you are going the pressure switch route and you're wanting to use the pressure switch that I have, you can use something like this from Schaefer Machining. It's an mlok mount, but it still causes the same problem that the pressure switch is out pretty far. You can use other pressure switches or other stuff that has an mlok mount to it, but it still has the same problem that it's out pretty far. This is the closest thing I could find to a slight cantilever to where it comes back towards your hand. This is a similar mount from Sker Regulars. It shows right there down at the bottom of the picture. This also seems even harder to be able to activate, and being at that 45 degree, that kind of just depends on what you prefer. These next 5 mounts are pretty much all the same. I'm just going to flash them on the screen for the sake of time. It'll say where they're from down at the bottom of the page on the website. This is probably the best option if you are not trying to do the tape switch method or not trying to use a pressure pad. What you can do is you can use this mount on the mlok barrel clamp or on the mlok handguard, and then you mount this ring around the very front of your light, and what that does is it acts as a cantilever, so it pushes the light back towards you. Now, these are made more for handheld flashlights instead of weapon mounted flashlights like the one I have. So if you're wanting to use one of these mounts, you would just get a regular 1-inch diameter flashlight, not a weapon mounted flashlight. You can still get a Surefire or the mod light like I have. Just make sure it's the handheld version. But by doing this, it should give you 2 to 3 inches and move it back towards your direction without having to use a tape switch. These next 4 mounts are the extension cantilever type mounts. So if you reverse these mounts, you'll actually be able to push it back your way as well. It all just depends on what light you have, but the first 3 mounts are too short. You would have to get a smaller light like the PLH 18350. That is the smaller light body instead of the full size. But the one at the end, the T-Rex arms, that seems long enough. I'm pretty sure that that will work with the full size lights. If you reverse that mount, it should get you back far enough to where you can still mount it because of where the mounting screws are. It depends what type of light you're running, and it also depends the size of the light. This last one is a basic offset scout mount compatible with most of your lights. It just causes the same problem where it's going to be kind of hard to reach, and it could get in the way of your front sight post and cause shadow with your barrel clamp or front sight post. There is also a swivel mount for the Surefire Scout Pro lights that you could possibly use to swivel out of the way of those obstacles. There was a longer version of it showed in the last couple pictures. If you have to mount something out here, you're going to need something extremely long. If you're not using a tape switch, you're going to need something extremely long to push yourself back. And even if I mount it here, you can see the problem I run into. So this mount won't work, unfortunately, but you see what you need. You need a type of reverse cantilever. You need a type of reverse cantilever mount to be able to push you back. You need it just about there to where it's going to set you back all the way as far as you can get to here. Now, the problem with this handguard is they made a spot to mount your light, but they made no spot to be able to get you back far enough to even be able to reach it. Now, I'm pretty tall and my arms are pretty long. I'm about 6 foot, so I have about a 6 foot wingspan. So even reaching out comfortably, this is the farthest I wanted to go comfortably. Trying to mount any type of tape, any type of mlok switch or anything right here, it was not comfortable and not easy to get to, and I couldn't find any type of cantilever switch that would get me back any farther. This is the Arisaka inline scout mount, but if you're trying to mount it here, it's going to cover that first screw. So here we have the Arisaka. Problem is, like I said, it's not going to get you out far enough to where you can easily activate it. So another problem is how close it sits. So I think that you could mount it and it wouldn't touch the barrel. Could potentially get in the way of your barrel clamp. Now, it might not hit it or it might hit it, but it could cause a little bit of shadowing. And then your front sight post is right there, as well as the Surefire mlok scout mounts for the pro lights. So it solves the problem that the fixed mount for the Arisaka had, where you can pivot that back and forth right there. So that solves one of the problems where you can pivot it, but it's still not getting you out as far. Now, I already went ahead and Loctited those screws on there, so I'm ready. You want to make sure you get these Loctited. I like to use this Vibrotite VC3 red Loctite for my lights and optics and certain stuff. I'm just going to drop these in here. Take my mlok grabbers. You want to make sure they're faced that way, so when you're looking at them, they'll be flat on top. Now that I have those in there, I'm going to go ahead and mount the light body to the mount. Now, according to Arisaka, it would be 20 inch-pounds light body to mount. So just go up to 20. I'm at 20 right there, 20 inch-pounds. And you're going to orientate it to whichever side you want the light to be. So since it's on my right side now, I'm going to have it orientated this way, just like that. I'm going to have it in the middle slot so it's lined up with the middle. I'm just going to get both these snugged up right in the middle. Get both, and then I'm just going to go back and forth, try to create equal tension until I hear that click in this torque driver. There's a click. 15 pounds of polymer handguard, 30 to metal. So this is polymer, so I'm gonna mount to 15 pounds. So if I mount this light right at the end of my mlok slots, it'll stop 5/8 inch short of the barrel. You want to keep this off until after you're done mounting because it just gets in the way of that screw. After that, I'm going to align my mlok grabbers horizontally. Then I'm going to drop them in right there. Same thing, you want to make sure that your mount is straight when you're mounting. And we're doing 15 pounds to the polymer handguard. So right now they're horizontal. I need to turn the mlok grabbers vertically, completely straight. And then after they're completely straight, I need to pull up and give tension on the grabbers. Because of that Loctite's on there, it's not going to, it'll make it hard, so I have to pull up on the mount to give it tension so those will actually tighten down. Or you can teeter-totter it and lift it back side to side to give it enough tension to where you can mount it down there. Now, because this handguard's polymer, you want to really make sure that these are straight and not canted at all, because you don't want these to rip out of here. It's not as strong as metal, so just make sure that these are straight, looking back through here and looking through the little hole over here the best you can. Now that I have those straight, my light is in line with my barrel and not cockeyed anyway. I'm just going to go ahead and torque these down. Got it at 15 pounds for the polymer handguard. Like I said, just going to go back and forth. That's 15. That's 15. Do it one more time. All right, so that's torqued down to 15. Now I can go ahead and put this on. So wherever you want your tape switch to land, you just have to find out where it is. Me personally, I probably prefer it up a little bit higher. You can put it down a little bit lower if you want. Shoulder your stock on your shotgun, and then wherever your hand naturally falls with your length of pole and all that, wherever is most comfortable, that's where you're gonna place it. I'm gonna go ahead and stick my tail switch in. I'll feel it snap in just like that, and then it's pretty flush. Now that I've found where I want to mount this tape switch, I'm actually going to put it right here. Should be a pretty good spot. When my hand rests, it'll just rest right on top of it, or you can kind of clip your thumb right up here. This does take a few pounds of pressure to activate, so you're not going to get any ADs from it. So because there's some paint or finish on there, I'm just going to take a pad and then go ahead and scrape this down. That's one thing I didn't mention in the Arisaka Industries shotgun card installation video. Because of the paint on this and the paint on the receiver, you want to take some type of sanding pad and then just sand it down a little bit so it doesn't have as slick of a surface right here, so I can mount these pads. So I'm just going to take that, just do that a little bit, nothing crazy. Now I'll go ahead and take my alcohol pad right here. Go ahead and clean the surface. Now you can just take a microfiber rag to speed up the drying. Do the same here as well. Just take the back of your finger, wipe it on there, make sure it's dry. Whichever side doesn't matter. I'm going to take this side that has the prickles on the end. this actually isn't as long as the entire tape switch. So you want to make sure that wherever you're mounting the adhesive is actually right in line. So I'm going to put the adhesive towards the end. So we got that on there straight. Just press it down. And you can take something flat like a screwdriver head that's round, and then just kind of massage that in there. Now I can see where to place my pad. I'll mark for the pad. I'm just going to do the same thing, put some pressure on it. The Velcro doesn't hold very well. Thanks for that, Surefire. I'm going to use some of these zip ties. So I got these off Amazon, TR Industrial, 12-inch, some 50-pound, not super thick in diameter, but the important part is the heat. It's not strong enough, and this is why it's important that if there was more mlok pieces here, it wouldn't get in the way of my grip. But Beretta's forcing my hand here. Now I'm having to jerry-rig this stuff. I'm going to place another zip tie right on the edge where it doesn't have activation. It only activates right in the center, right here. So the edges, I'm actually able to put a zip tie right there. So I'm just going to line that up. I'm going to put the zip tie on the other side since this side is going to be up against my body. So here it is afterwards. Looks like shit, but because of Beretta not giving you a bunch of options, this is kind of what I have to go with. It's definitely secure. This thing's not going anywhere. This isn't also going to activate at all, even if I push on it. So you have to be pushing in this center spot. So I think it's pretty good for the most part. It obviously doesn't look the most appealing, but Beretta didn't do us any favors. Beretta just wasn't thinking about the sling and light mounting and all that. This is what I was talking about putting pressure on your light. So if my light's right here, number one, it's just going to get in the way of anything. But if it's slung, this is just going to be putting pressure on my light and my light mount all the time. I didn't really like that. Also, it is nice to have this part of the shotgun more slick, because when it is slung and it'll be more flat up against your body. And then here's the other side. I did add one more zip tie to the bottom just to secure this wire a little bit better. It was moving around a little bit, but that's all right. So that's that side. I just have these on the flattest part I can get them. And then that is the end of the barrel. So you're only about 5/8 of an inch short of the barrel, so that looks pretty nice. There's not a whole lot of options where it makes using the flashlight efficient. If you have any questions or want to see any specific videos, feel free to comment down below. If you could leave a like, subscribe, and share, I would really appreciate it, and it would help the channel. Thanks for watching.